Hello everybody, this is Joe's Gunplug Garage coming at you with a news video. This is going to be a new type segment on the channel where I go over Gunpla or Gundam news. And it's just going to be me and you talking. It's going to be a talking head type video. There'll be images on the screen wherever relevant. But without further ado, let's get into it. And today we're going to be talking about the first real grade 2.0. We haven't had any official 2.0 real grades, but there have been people that have considered any real grade from 28 to now to be a sort of 2.0. Now, real grades have been out for about 14 years now. The first one came out in 2010, and it was the original RX-78-2 Gundam. Now, one of the main key selling points was a new technology was the MS frame, right here, the B frame. Now, we have seen some variations of the B-frame since then. This is called the B-frame because it's always on runner B, right? This is a movable joint molded into the kit itself. So if I snip this leg off, I'll be able to bend it. And it's all molded into the plastic. It's really fascinating technology. But since then, there's been variations. Real grade 28, the tall geese had just the B-frame and the verniers. The skeleton was all regular type plastic, similar to a master grade. That's really when real grades became mini master grades, was at tall geese number 28, real grade 28. I give you this context because the B-frame has always been the main technological focal point of the real grade line. So it's going to be exciting to see this 2.0 come out and see what that really means as 2.0. Does this mean that the B-frame is gone completely and this really is just a mini master grade? What does it mean? I don't know. And we'll find out more later, but it's very fun to think about and theorize. So, without further ado, let's get into these images. I will be putting them up on screen as it's relevant to the conversation. Now, taking a look at the actual design of the Gundam itself, it is much different compared to the 1.0. The 1.0 real grade was based off the 1-to-1 statue that was built in Japan. Same with the Master Grade 3.0. They're both based off the same design, which is why it doesn't look super anime accurate. It does have that real life look to it. If you look at a jet or any form of military aircraft, you're going to see all sorts of hatches, warning labels, decals, all sorts of stuff all over the jet. That obviously all means something in real life. So that is the main point of real grade. Beyond using the MS joint, it's supposed to emulate what these giant robots would look like if they were real. That's why you get all these extra decals with them, and that's why there's all this extra surface detail to them. So on this kit here, if we look at the legs, we can see that there's now some gray pointing out on the feet and on the ankle guards itself. Before, on the ankle guards, it was mostly all white with any gray on the ankle guards being in the form of a sticker or a seal, as Bandai will call it. And right there at the ankle, we can see some more gray from a armor type separation gimmick, so that's kind of cool. Moving up to the calves here, we can see two different types of gray, a darker gray and a lighter gray right at the kneecap, which is interesting because we did have a somewhat lighter cream type color on the calf of the original real grade, but mostly the real grade is all white for the primary portion of its armor. Moving on up from the calf, we can take a look at the thigh, and on the back end of the thigh there's another gray portion, and it looks like on the front end of the thigh there's some type of venting, but it's really just probably slots in the armor itself that go to the frame. Same thing with the skirt, some more slots that go to the frame with some nice surface detailing on the side of the skirt itself and on the very front. Moving up to the torso and the chest area, there is much more detailing on the 2.0 real grade in the torso and the chest than there are on the original 1.0 real grade, which is funny because the legs are more detailed on the 1.0 than the 2.0. Looking at the arms, the shoulders, they seem a little bit bigger. In my opinion, I think the shoulders maybe look a little too wide, just a tad too wide on either side. But I believe this is subjective because, again, this isn't a one-to-one anime accurate type of design. This is a design to look as realistic as possible. So I don't really have any bones with the shoulder armor, but if I'm trying to look for things, that's one thing that would jump out at me. And then looking down the arms, we have more gray and white mixed armor gimmicks. So definitely a good portion of color separation here. And as we know with real grades, color separation is mostly done through pieces. In fact, it's seldom ever done with a sticker or anything like that. Now the head is interesting. The head is definitely got a more round shape to it when it goes up to the Mohawk type camera. But that could also just be the angle of the photo, but it also looks like we get a little bit more surface detailing there behind the Vulcan guns. Altogether, I like this design a lot. I like this take on Granddaddy. It's always nice to see a different take on it. So moving on, we're going to move to a Google translated photo. It says, new, 3 points that have changed with the advancement of technology. The inner frame. The inner frame is inspired by a semi-monocue structure that lets you relive the construction of a mobile suit. Point 2, armor and mechanic design. Mechanical design drawn with the latest resolution, condensing 1:1 reality to 1:144 scale. And point 3, action and weapons. Details of the evolved actions and weapons will be released in May 2024. So it sounds like we're either getting more information May of 2024. I don't think the kit's releasing May of 2024, but I could also be incorrect here. And Google Translate could also be incorrect here. So looking at it, it says semi-monocue structure. What that means to me is that it's going to be some truss framing in it. So probably the B-frame is going to continue the trend that we've seen since Real Grade 28, where the B-frame is probably completely gone out of the skeleton itself, which probably a good thing because it was one of the more contentious aspects of original Real Grades. But we're also going to see a lot more detailing in the inner frame build itself. So let's swipe to that photo. So if we take a look at this photo here, and if you put it side by side with the PGU, you'd say this is very, very similar. If you looked at both the inner frame of this Real Grade 2.0 and the inner frame of the PGU, you would be like, wow, this is great. They look pretty identical. Obviously there's some differences here, but let's start at the legs again. So down at the legs, the base of the foot is a very dark gray. And meanwhile, the armor components for the front of the toes and for the ankle guard is a lighter gray. Moving up to the ankle, we have another darker gray and then a type of white for that truss framing on the calf there. And then the kneecap, this is interesting, the kneecap is dark and a light gray here for that vent there, mainly at the main kneecap itself. Moving up to the knee joint itself, that's a lighter gray, and then to the thigh we have a dark gray sandwiched with a light gray. So there's all sorts of different grays going on here, so it's going to be a good mix. But look at the frame detailing. There's all sorts of trussing throughout. They're really trying to bring home the building a real robot type experience into this tiny 1:144 package. That's exactly what point 1 of that, how technology changed. That's what the first bullet point says to me. So moving up to the skirt armor, even though this is going to be covered, we still have more truss framing details here. Like these little pockets here on the front, you could paint that any number of colors. You can make that copper with a darker gray as the actual truss framing, so you get all that kind of mechanical detail. When I see stuff like this, my brain just goes haywire with paint ideas and how I could bring this to the next level. This is already going to look good out of the box. This is going to look good out of the box whether you put armor on it or leave armor off of it. But if you wanted to paint it, you could really make something incredible here. Moving up, we see the core fighter is fully transformed within the abdomen of the kit itself. That looks nice. Now what would be interesting to me is if they're going to continue the theme of having the eyes molded separately. Now previously, Real Grades have used a sticker. Occasionally you'll get lucky like with the Astray or the Build Strike where they're kind of separated, but that's just based off the design of the MS itself. But primarily they're stickers, so it'll be nice to get away with stickers. I know the aerial, the high-grade aerial, the eyes were fully separated. So that would be really nice to see that type of technology continue throughout more kits in Gunpla. And then let's take a look at the arms here. So the shoulder has a lot of more truss framing on the inner frame of the shoulder itself. And then if we go down to the arm, we're not going to see any pistons because this is a little too small for pistons in my opinion. I think that would be difficult for them to mold something like that, like how we saw on the PGU and whatnot. But it definitely looks like there's gears and other movement type items within the actual frame of the arm here. So all around, it looks like this is going to be a very exciting build. And then let's take a look at this last newish type photo here, and you can see the top of the chest where it is. So this is going to have a separation type gimmick. We can see that based on the fact that the core fighter is not installed into this body, but we can see that venting on the chest there and how there's different grays for the vents and the actual frame itself. And then we got that silver up there for more of the framing that's going to be covered up by the upper chest armor. All around really, really good stuff, and you can see that they really put a lot of time and effort into making sure that this mold is going to capture as much tiny details as possible. So if you do some comparisons between Real Grade number 1 and let's say any Real Grade released since the High New Gundam, even maybe probably the New Gundam, it's been a while since I've built that one, but you can see the difference in just mold technology. Like the mold lines on the Real Grade God and the Wing TV and the Epion, they're much more refined, and they've just done a lot more with it. I don't know how else to explain it, but it's like the ridges in the armor detailing is more crisp, if that makes sense. Like you can definitely see the difference between where an armor point will be raised and where it won't be, and all the detail lines, all the different surface detailing, hatches, things like that. Like, just a lot. Mold technology's gone a long way within the past 14 years, and that's evident with just the evolution of the Real Grade line itself. So I'm very excited to get a upgrade of the Granddaddy Gundam in my favorite scale, my favorite line. I love collecting 1/144 scale. I know a lot of people say they're too small, they're too toyish. As someone who's a collector who wants to try and collect a good representation of everything Gundam, really, this is the best bang for your buck, because MGs do take up a lot of space. So that's why 1/144 scale and why Real Grade is my favorite. I'm a big stickler for surface and frame detailing, and sometimes the Real Grades even have more surface detailing than a Master Grade. But that's because they're entirely different grades. They're almost not even comparable. They're comparable because the build is similar, but they're not comparable by design, because the Real Grade is going for a more realistic look, meanwhile some Master Grade designs are going for a more anime accurate look. So it's really not even a fair comparison to say, well, you know, the Real Grade has more surface detail. Of course it is. That's the whole point of the line. All in all, the Real Grade Granddaddy 2.0 is exciting to me. I'm a big fan of the original Mobile Suit Gundam. It's one of my favorites in the entire series altogether, in all honesty. And it's nice to see a new iteration of the design, especially taking things from the PGU, taking lessons learned from the Real Grade line, kind of meshing it together and coming out with a real true to life 2.0 Real Grade. So that's really exciting, and I think it opens the doors. Now, in my personal opinion, I think the MS joint has its purpose, and I think there's times where it doesn't have its purpose. I'm not a believer in early Real Grade syndrome, and that's going to be on a separate video. I don't want to keep putting all my video ideas in one video. Not a believer of that. I think they tried it, they did the best they could, and I think they were correct with straying away from it on Real Grade 28 and now. And I think the line has definitely improved from it. I see a lot of people talking about how Real Grade is now becoming their favorite line just because the build quality is really good and the build experience is really good. Now, the only other problem I see with Real Grade is that the pieces are really, 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 really tiny, especially ones on Crossbone and the Real Grade Exia. Those can be quite cumbersome to build, and some pieces can fall into the abyss. It's inevitable. It's happened to me. If it can happen to me, it can happen to you. But I'm just a stickler for 1/144, and I'm a stickler for surface detail. So I'm just really, really pumped on this. I'm really hyped about it, and I'm excited to continue to see the Real Grade line expand and grow. I know some people are probably sick to death of this design, and I understand where you're coming from with that. It can be quite annoying to see all these third-party designs come out and you're like, wow, that looks really great. And then Bandai says, here's another granddaddy. But we need to understand that this design is really what built Sunrise and Bandai's success with Gunpla altogether. Without this design, we don't even have this hobby. In fact, it was this design that even saved the franchise, because the model kits got super popular and that basically renewed interest in a series that was pretty much dying during its original run. So, without the granddaddy, we don't have this hobby that we all come to know and love today. So, I know you're probably tired, but remember, it's just one real grade release, okay? We'll be okay. We'll make it. And with it officially being known as a 2.0, the sky's the limit. Let's see how much more technology they can really fit into a 1/144 scale, a tiny, tiny robot, you know? 4.5 inches or whatnot, however tall it is. I think it would be really fun, and it's really interesting to watch this line flourish. I think that's basically all I have on Real Grade 2.0. It's a great announcement. I think the granddaddy deserves the respect, and maybe now people who are afraid to try the Real Grade line because they heard so many bad things about the original granddaddy, maybe now they'll be more apt and open to try the line, and maybe they're going to find a new favorite. So, if someone's really excited about RG Granddaddy 2.0, don't give them any crap. Just celebrate with them, because this is something that we all love, and I really think that Bandai coming out and saying, hey, here's this basically PGU in a 1/144 scale, I think that's great. I think that's something to really be celebrated. So, without further ado, this has been Joe's Gunpla Garage talking about Real Grade Granddaddy 2.0 RX-78. I hope to see you in the next video. Take care, happy building, and have fun.